When we first got married, we did all the dinner and movie type dates. We spent a lot of money, but we didn't feel any closer to each other after the date than we did before. The depth of our relationship just wasn't growing.
Thankfully, values-based budgeting has shifted our approach to how we spend time and money together. It has completely changed our relationship. These days, well, we do dates like, now you'll see. Let's dive in.
We're Nick and Hannah True, and we're here to help you do more with your money. Welcome to Craft Your Money Story, a Mapped Out Money podcast.
We like spending money together, so we're not going to act like we don't, but depending on the season that you're in, which we talk about a lot, there are times where we don't need to be quite as tight, and we will go out to eat more for date nights. And then there are other seasons where we're like really trying to allocate monies to do something specific, and we've decided to cut our eating out budget a little bit. And so we have to be a little bit more creative about finding ways to have date nights that don't cost as much money.
I think what happens a lot of times is, we all get like decision fatigue, and we get to date night or whatever. It's like hard to think of activities in the moment. And it's almost like, I don't even know what sounds fun. What do you want to go do? I don't know. What do you want to go do? And then we'll just like sit there and we'll look at our phones. And then again, we've wasted all of our time and we don't feel refreshed, and we haven't used it well to like recuperate and connect with each other. One of the components of what we do on our vision document is like ideal weekday activity menu.
Yeah. It's taking time on the front end to have a pre-selected list. It's like we do this with movies too, so that when we sit down to watch a movie, we don't endlessly scroll Netflix forever and ever. We can go to the list and say, does anything on this list sound good? A lot of what we like doing is not super expensive. So the first one that comes to mind, getting coffee and walking. We talk about walking all the time. It is probably our number one favorite way to spend time together. Traditionally, a lot of women tend to like face-to-face time, and a lot of men tend to like shoulder-to-shoulder time. Walking is kind of this interesting mix, and I've just found that most of the time our conversations are better when we're walking and talking versus like sitting at the kitchen table and talking.
Yeah. This isn't technically a date night, which again, I think makes it even better. But like if we know that we have a trip coming up and we're going to be in the car, especially for like several hours at a time together, we'll start keeping a list of like, oh, I listened to this podcast and I'm really interested to know what you think about it. So I want us to listen to it together and then talk about it as we go.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
So we'll do that with podcasts or audiobooks. It always makes us look forward to
It's just being
days.
intentional about the way that you like to spend time together, rather than defaulting to just spending money on the thing that everybody always spends money on.
Going back to our last episode where we used the best self card deck.
The date night. Yeah.
It helps you use little moments that you have well. So like if we're in the car for 15 minutes going somewhere and I'm sitting in the passenger seat and I catch myself like just looking at my phone, I'll try to like remember, oh, hey, let's pull out that card deck and do a couple of those questions while we're driving. Same thing like over dinner. If we find ourselves just like scrolling on our phones, we try to catch it and use that time intentionally.
Totally.
We have to talk about board games.
When I think about values-based budgeting for our date nights, if we're going to measure the dollars spent per time together,
Nerd alert.
we're going to get more money out of taking a board game to a coffee shop and spending $10 than we are going to a nice dinner, spending a lot more than that, and having to leave after like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Whereas like a coffee shop, you can totally take a board game and stay there for 3 or 4 hours if you wanted to. It's not that we never go out to eat or we never have date nights like that. It's just our dollars will stretch a lot further if we're a little more thoughtful, and the board games and coffee shop thing is a real win for us.
Okay, running and working out.
A healthy couple needs, I think you need both of that.
Yeah,
I think
I
you
agree.
need face-to-face time, and you also need shoulder-to-shoulder time. And working out is a really, really good way to get shoulder-to-shoulder time, because if you're going to do that anyways, and we understand that not everybody's in a position to do it. If you got kids and other stuff, like you can't figure out the logistics, I get it. But in an ideal world, it feels like a good way to get that time together.
I think there's so much value in that like suffering together.
Suffering together is huge. Totally.
Yeah. All right. What else do we have on here? We are such nerds. Riding in the car and just like driving around random neighborhoods and talking. This is really fun though, especially like thinking forward.
I love I love driving around random neighborhoods.
I do too. And thinking forward to like the type of house that we want in the future. And like, I mean, we'll pick little elements. Oh, I really like that they did there. Or
that's a cool roof line.
That house would be perfect if it were in this location.
Yep.
Or so we just use that as like a fun way to dream about the future, really.
Yeah. Again, it gets that shoulder to shoulder talking time. We can have our visioning deck, or we can just pay attention to, like you said, the houses and talk about our future and our vision and houses we like and what we're thinking. And that's some of the most quality time that we've had. And it's free. I mean, except for gas. If it's in the budget, we'll get a coffee. Yeah. If it's not in the budget,
coffee makes everything more fun.
We'll make coffee from home. And then we'll get in the car and go drive around. You'll see a theme. We were making a list for this, and we looked back at the list.
We had coffee included on working out with coffee.
We had coffee included like 18 times.
Well, the other thing we like to do is like taking a book and or like some art stuff and like going and sitting somewhere that's either really pretty or is like a good place to people watch. And so even like driving around, we'll kind of see spots where we're like, oh, that'd be a fun spot to come back to and just bring chairs and just chill there for a little bit.
One of the underlying things that runs through this is we have tried to find ways to spend time together doing each other's hobby, even if we don't like the hobby that they do. You want to be able to go out to a park and sketch. And so what I've tried to do is go, okay, well, how can I go with you, but still find something that I'm interested in? And luckily, I really like to read. And so that somewhat pairs pretty easily.
Reading's like cheating because you can do it anywhere.
You can do it anywhere.
Amazing thing about reading.
But even if we think about like stuff that I would like to do, you know, like there's a real shot I will get more into golf in the future. I don't think you have any interest in getting into golf. Whenever we've played, that has not been
it's not my strong suit.
Something you've enjoyed.
Yeah.
But again, that's one of those where like you could go with me and ride in the car and take a book or sketch or just hang out.
Just enjoy walking around the golf course. Yeah.
So I think one of the sort of underlying themes here is if your spouse has hobbies that you're not into, trying to find a creative way to do something that you enjoy while they're doing their hobby so that you can still be together. We have some of the best conversations while you're doing your thing and I'm doing my thing. And then I just spur a thought and I look up and I ask, hey, what, and we build depth of relationship, even though we're not into the same things.
Starting our day with Bible study has like grown us so much in that area too.
Totally.
Just in liking each other.
Well, liking people is kind of an interesting thing too, in that obviously there is something, it's a gut, it's a feeling, it's a vibe, it's a whatever, where like you just like certain people and you don't like other people, and that's certainly there. But also liking people can grow just by spending time together. And so I think that shouldn't be discounted. I love you and I like you more today than I did 12 years ago.
Yeah, same. Well, and I do. I think like if you're married and you're struggling to feel that way with your spouse, like I just cannot overstate the importance of Bible study together. And if you start there, even if it's like so super duper small.
It's been foundational for us.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I think God blesses that so much and uses it to draw you to stay centered on Him and remember that like He's the foundation that unifies you. And so even if you disagree on little things here or there, when you agree on the foundation and you're both focused on like glorifying God and using your life in that way, then He'll unify you on the rest.
I totally agree. And I think related to this, the other date night idea that comes to mind is finding something that you both want to learn or grow in and putting it on the calendar to do that. I think one of the most dangerous things that humans do is typically we get out of school, we do the formative parts of our career, we're learning our skills and getting our chops and all that stuff. And then we hit like late 20s, 30s, and we just stop learning.
Yeah.
And we stop growing. I think it kills people. We have gotten to where if one of us comes across like a workshop on a topic that we find interesting, it's like, hey, do you want to pay for this and do it together? Mm-hmm. And so we just did a podcasting workshop. Now, luckily, we work in the business together, so there's a lot of topics where
we have a lot of overlap.
It's very natural to have a lot of overlap. Like, hey, let's take this YouTube thumbnail making course together. But there are other topics. You actually just came across a curriculum for teaching kids the Bible and teaching kids.
And I was like, oh, we should totally take this together.
Like worldviews. And we're like, we should take the kids version and we should just do it for us. Mm-hmm. And so we're probably going to sign up for that. Again, just being intentional. That's one of those things where it's like we could pay what it would cost to go out to a nice dinner. Mm-hmm. And then now we have this like really fun workshop thing to do together and learn. And so that's another not as common way to do date nights that's building the relationship and just as cost effective as anything else, really.
I totally agree. Carrying forward with our learning theme, at different points, you and I have done buddy reads where we literally read the same book.
Yep.
But then we kind of go through seasons where it's just not practical for us to be reading the same book. But what we have done is if we read something and we think like, oh, I think you would enjoy like certain parts of this or think that certain things were interesting. The one who read the book will take book notes and kind of like summarize some talking points. And then we can kind of get that same buddy read-esque feel with things without the other person having to read the whole book.
I just recently read your summarized notes on the Redeeming the Time.
Is that Jonathan Edwards?
Jonathan Edwards. Very
it's like
old. It's very, very old. Like, I don't even know that I call it a book. It was more like set of letters or sermons or something.
Yeah.
On redeeming the time and time management, really. And you had written a condensed kind of summary version of that. And I found that really helpful to just read your summary and then us talk about how we could implement that in our life. I think so often the default is to just go out to a quote, nice dinner, which is not bad. It's just that can become a very significant line item in the budget.
Well, and also let's be real. I mean, how many times have all of us been out at a restaurant and you look over and you see a couple and they're both on their phones and they're like completely
then you're spending a ton of money and you're not even getting the relationship value. Yeah. And so really this just goes back to, like all things, how can we be a little bit more intentional with how we're using our money to get the actual value that we're looking for, which the value here is depth of relationship and building that relationship. And so these are some of the ways that have been really helpful for us. And we hope that maybe they give you some ideas for you and your marriage.
Yeah. I got to make Margot wave since she got up here.
Say bye, Margot.
All right. Bye.